It was just a normal day of basketball practice, and we were running the three-man weave. Everyone was talking and having a good time, just like we always did. But then, we all stopped as our coach lit up the gym with a stern clearing of the throat. We waited, not knowing what to expect. After a pause of what seemed to be like forever, Coach said, "We made him look good. We made him look damn good." And that was all. Everyone knew what he was talking about, for we had just lost a tournament to a team that we should have beaten. It was one of those times where the coach tries to be dramatic and make us reminisce, but in reality, all that we were doing was holding back the laughter from his one-line speech. As it turns out, this coach is someone that means a lot to me, my dad. Gary Nelson is the opposite of a simple man, although he would like to think otherwise. He's one of the most adventurous people that I know, a humble guy that loves to have fun and admittedly is a little weird sometimes. Where he was born, I'm not positive, Chicago I believe. My dad had less than a fun life growing up, as he moved houses nearly twice a year from birth. His mother, whom I've never called grandma before, pretty much left him on his own. And I cannot, with confidence, tell you the name of my late grandpa, his dad. Gary graduated from high school as a lanky 6'4" kid in Wisconsin Dells. He was a bit of a troublemaker, but had some awesome flowing 70s hair that more than made up for it. The stories of his childhood are some of the most captivating things that I've ever heard, hands down. But they normally ended, "But if I ever catch you doing something like that, we're going to have major problems." My dad has a huge bank of knowledge stored up in his brain, so I can come to him with pretty much any questions that I may have, but he's really not afraid to tell me something that I don't want to hear, that's for sure. He's realistic about everything to do with other people, but for some reason, he seems to be the exact opposite with himself. The man buys everything he can get his hands on, as it seems. One day I came home to hear that he had just bought a car wash in Lake Delton. And sometimes we're driving along the road in town, and he proudly declares that he just tried to buy a house for $2,000, and he got rejected. If it involves building his empire, then nothing else matters for him. One day I asked him if my stepmom cares that he buys buildings and warehouses and stuff without saying anything to her. He just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Maybe." It's unbelievably inspiring to see my dad be able to have a good life for his family after not being able to afford clothes or even a good meal growing up, and without earning a college degree. Big Gare is a woodsman. He's all over anything that has to do with the outdoors. The only reason he doesn't live in some little tent on the prairies of Wyoming hunting antelope every day is probably his family. And that is not an exaggeration at all. He has so many stories about hunting everything starting from his high school days. I'm pretty sure he's upset that I'm not a big hunter, but that's something that he's really passionate about, but he's learned to accept it and has handled it well. And I think that's why he's trying to take a hacker on as his second son, or third son. Even though Gary is in touch with the outdoors, he has some weird infatuation with pop music. He'll be singing some Lady Gaga while ripping open a deer to gut it. And on a tangent to that, I'm 90% sure that our duets to My Sharona by The Knack in car rides would go platinum if they were in the record stores. So, you know. One more thing that's safe to say about my dad is that he's likable. There are so many people around that I've never even seen before that come up to him and say hi. He even has friends at all the coffee shops that he religiously goes to every day, usually multiple times a day. In the Dells, he's recognized at Starbucks just by his voice from ordering through the drive-thru. And a couple of weeks ago, one of the workers there called him Gare Bear in front of my stepmom, so that was awkward, to say the least. A final thing that I'd like to say about my dad is how glad that I am that he decided to coach our team in basketball from 4th to 8th grade. Those were the best of my life, years of my life thus far. Memories like beating Lone Rock 100-6 in 5th grade and being ranked 7th out of 150 plus teams going into our 8th grade season and making it to the state tournament in 7th, 8th grade. Those are things that I'll never forget. I couldn't have asked for a better coach. He would lay awake at night almost every weekend trying to come up with a game plan for the next day. Gary made relationships with the guys that he still makes an effort to hold on to today. He calls or texts them sometimes after one of their names is in the paper, or sends them a card declaring a job well done. And a few people in this room can vouch for that, I think. Wrapping things up, Gary's pretty much the man. He's a guy that overcame a bad situation as a kid to be successful, the definition of what hard work can do for you. He says that the best advice he can give me is to pursue something that I like and am good at, and to give him lots of money when I'm a billionaire. And like I said, Gary's the man.